And welcome back to the IWAR Network Tubecast. I'm your host, Alex G. And this episode will be the June 2022 results show. No, wait, we did that one yesterday.
Yes.
So, guys, you guys are probably wondering why exactly we're doing another Tubecast the day after. And to answer that question, I'm bored. And I want to do another one. So this one will be chock full of shenanigans, tomfoolery. This can be a Q&A, ask me anything. We're going to talk about nonsense for most of this show. Hopefully something will be related to the IWA, but I cannot guarantee that. On the show this evening, we have good old Matt Riley. We have Aaron is here as well. So welcome, guys, as always. Thank you for coming out this evening on short notice.
Happy to help.
So what's going on in the world today? Maybe the world of professional wrestling. We're talking about the Forbidden Door a few seconds ago, and that show seems to be cursed, much like the IWL Commissioners Championship. So I don't watch as much modern wrestling, at least the TV shows. What I do watch instead are match comps. So I'll watch the best of Wardlow or the best of MJF, and I always watch like 4 hours of just matches and promos for the particular individual, and I don't actually watch the shows because they give me seizures, especially WWE shows. If you watch those camera cuts, they're rough.
Yeah, that is rough. That's turned me off recently. I mean, I tried to give it a go, and I know there's probably some quality wrestlers on there, but yeah, it's like
it's
a literal headache.
Modern wrestling is rough for me from time to time because I don't think anything makes sense. It feels very disjointed in a lot of ways. It seems like there's not a whole lot of pre-planning. AEW is, in my opinion, is far superior than the WWE right now in terms of what they're doing overall.
You were a big Ring of Honor guy at one point. When did you fizzle out on their product?
There was, let's see, what ended it for me. I think it was probably the end of the Briscoe world title run around that time. Around the time that
Briscoe?
No.
Larry Zbyszko's world title run?
No, wow. Mark Briscoe.
Oh, Mark Briscoe.
Yeah. Around the time that Cornette had left as well, I had stopped going to shows at that point. So we're thinking
2011, 2012?
I lasted a little bit longer than that. I think my last show was like 2013, 2014. My last show was the Liger show when Liger came out. So whatever that.
Was that the butt fingers, butt thumb of the ass spot? That show?
It did happen on that show if I remember
correctly.
No. It might have been the same weekend. It might have been that SummerSlam weekend where I think he did Ring of Honor and he did NXT. That one appearance on NXT. Wow. So, but I was a huge Ring of Honor guy. I started going 3 or 4. I saw all the Punk stuff. Saw the Bryan Danielson title one, which is amazing. That's when Christian Cage came out as NWA World Champion on the show, and he said that Bryan Danielson looked like John Cena with AIDS. You're talking about Christian Cage promos. Unfiltered Christian Cage is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, so, he was pretty unfiltered last night, too, actually.
I think he was given the green light. They said, let's just make it good. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, it gave me the vibe that they're, filling the MJF void. I'm not saying he's doing that, but he even referenced MJF during that promo.
Yeah. So for me, I think we look at a guy like Christian Cage who's been, I think, criminally underrated, criminally underused from time to time. It's good to see he's finally getting another opportunity because he did some good stuff in TNA also when he was there way back when. I used to be a big TNA guy too, like
the wrestling company or
both. I lost my patience with TNA at the third week when Hogan and Bischoff came in, and I was like, "Fuck this shit." Fuck this shit.
Those were dark times.
No, but they had when they had Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe and Chris Daniels and AJ Styles as their top guys at the time. You would see the emergence of James Storm as well. I thought he was fantastic. Same thing with Bobby Roode. Those guys were up and coming and I thought they were going to do big stuff. And then, much like WCW in 1994, like Hogan and friends come in and it kind of changed the direction of the entire company. And unlike 1994, it made me more interested in WCW, and it made me less interested in TNA. But I'm a big Hogan apologist in WCW for me personally. Although I think a lot of people forget about this, and I think I've referenced this before, Matt, on other shows we've done that. If you watch like Bischoff era WCW, like the time from when he takes over to the time, even a little bit after Hogan comes in, but kind of the pre-Nitro, pre-Hogan WCW with Eric Bischoff in charge, it's the 90 version of the AWA because it's very AWA centric, which is really weird looking back and watching it. Like, even their Hall of Fame they did at Slamboree is like 90% AWA guys. And Bischoff really runs the Midwest hard during that time. Like, he starts going into old AWA territory. So, because he came from the AWA. He was an AWA guy. So, like, you see Nick Bockwinkel as the commissioner of WCW. Like, you see Heenan and Mean Gene come back. Jesse Ventura is there. So, it's very heavy AWA inspired, and Greg Gagne is there. He's helping book. Greg is there. You know,
he was the man behind NWO, right? Is that true?
Yeah. So we did a show on crazy stuff that Greg Gagne says. Much like he invented the NWO, he got Hogan not only into wrestling, back into wrestling, and he brought him to WCW. Greg Gagne also said that Verne created the UFC. It's the concept of it. So,
yes.
Which, like, if you watch a Greg Gagne interview, like, you listen to him talk, it's like, oh, okay, like, you almost believe him. you almost believe him because that kind of makes sense.
It's the George Costanza theory. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Darren says he loved the AWA but hated Larry Zbyszko. Like, Larry Zbyszko was like a phenomenal heel. He's right up. I wish he would have got that run with Hogan.
I think Larry Zbyszko, while he was a good bad guy, you know who reminds me of him?
Oh.
Your friend of mine, QT Marshall. Just for like the pure people just hate him. Like, Larry would come out and be like, "You're the Ted Cruz of wrestling." Like, it's just awful. Everyone hates him. Like,
Zbyszko had a hell of a run. Like, he turned babyface in WCW and had the feud with William Regal. Like, that stuff's amazing. Like, that's the best shit he ever did. And then his tag team with Arn Anderson as the Enforcers, like, that was really good. Larry Zbyszko's Dangerous Alliance, you know, with that, like, that's probably, like, pound for pound in terms of talent. The Dangerous Alliance probably had the most talent of any stable, maybe ever.
Well, you know, was there a big difference between AWA Zbyszko and WCW Zbyszko? I assume he was a bit younger in the AWA, but
Zbyszko, when Zbyszko wanted to work, like, he's fantastic. But then, you know, he has the reputation of, like, I'm going to be lazy. And the whole thing is that he got this ginormous push in the AWA, but he's married to Kathy Gagne.
Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they put all their eggs in the Zbyszko basket because Zbyszko wasn't going to go anywhere because he's part of the family, right? So, you know, who knows, you know, and he gets saddled with the whole death of the AWA because, you know, he's a top guy, top heel of the company, as the company is self-destructing, right? So he gets that stigma attached to him quite a bit. Like, he's with that era with, like, Flapjack Scott Norton and the Trooper, and the Destruction Crew is there, and they're pretty good. And it's like, you know, it's awful. Like, we went back and watched a lot of those shows. I watched AWA.
Don't forget they had Jake Milliman too. He really didn't carry the weight of the.
Yeah, Derek Dukes is another one.
Derek Dukes.
Slaughter's in and out a lot, so he's
Colonel De Beers.
Colonel De Beers.
Oh.
So, yes, he tried to paint a black wrestler white. That's a real thing.
I was about to say that. Well, that was he. Yeah,
that was a real thing. That was a real thing.
You know, you mentioned stables, though. I think it's a good segue to talk about your IWL and your hatred of stables.
I don't hate stables. I don't. We have lots of stables.
Everybody got so many more points.
One of the biggest stables in the IWAR is Revolution Extreme.
It's the only stable in the IWAR that matters anyway.
That's why you don't want guys to have stable initials.
That's a Ryan thing, and that's something I kept when I was handed over the league. And he has a point though. Like he's not wrong. Imagine like what you're reading PWI and you're looking at the rankings and you see 4H Ric Flair and 4H Arn Anderson. Right. It looks ridiculous. Yeah. There's a lot of alphabet soup. If I don't know if your wrestler's in a stable, then you're not in a good stable. You know what I mean?
That's true. I've always felt that way. That if you have to like sit there and be like, the only way I know this guy teams with this guy, like you don't see any promos with them. There's no language, but IWL has a number of stables.
They do. Omega Squadron being a big one. The Three Birds, including the Mid-Atlantic Wrecking Crew.
One of the newer ones will be the Gun Collection.
Gun Collection's here.
Industry's on the way.
Industry is here. So there's fantastic stables.
And you can name those 5 or 6 right off the top of your head. So maybe they're the ones doing something right. They don't necessarily need those initials.
No.
To your point.
No.
Well, I would say this. I think RX has been around the longest, I believe. I think Empire Chaos might be in there, but they were away for a while. But RX has been there since, I don't know what it was,
2014?
It was
15?
It was 15 or 16. Wasn't it like Johnny went away and then he came back? Remember how he was
Yeah, so like the genesis of Revolution Extreme starts with Johnny Revolution and that big War Games match, which Luther takes the fall. Luther's like the rookie, so he's like the newest guy. And he joined the stable called the Revolution. It wasn't really a stable, it was just a group of hand-picked Johnny Revolution guys. At the time, Johnny Revolution was the owner of record of the IWA at the time, and this match was to determine if the Revolutionaries lost the match, Johnny Revolution would have to leave and he would give up ownership of the IWA, and he did in fact lose. And I think I volunteered to take the fall because I think we had, I forget how we did it, but I volunteered to take the fall, and then Luther goes nuts and. It's like a 6-month period where he's upset and he's obsessed with Johnny Revolution. He goes looking for him, can't find him. He gets a statue erected of Johnny Revolution placed in front of the IWA offices. He starts harassing Johnny B and a bunch of other people, trying to bring him back and trying to find him. But he's missing. He left. He vanished. And Johnny Revolution's last act as the owner of the IWA is to make Luther Alexander the commissioner of the NWL. As like his nuclear option. Yeah. Like if I lose, I'm going to press this button and let this maniac be a commissioner. And I think Luther Alexander is the only wrestler who's an active wrestler and a commissioner at the same time. So he's causing all types of chaos and carnage, and like no one's really, like you're going to try to attack the commissioner. The commissioner's nuts and will kick your ass.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, he had a run. How long was that commissioner for NWL? Like 3 years? 2 years?
I think so, yeah. We had 2 Rumble and Bronx at least.
Yeah. So it was a while where he was actually a competent commissioner, which is the amazing part.
Yeah, that's the thing I always think is fun when you make the guys who are the extreme whack job commissioner types be actually effective.
Yeah.
So it makes it more of a dynamic that way.
And the NWL at the time, I think a lot of people maybe not remember, I based it completely on what NXT was at the time. So it was very NXT orientated, right? So it was basically they had the training school, and Uncle Ivan, who trained Luther, is the trainer for all the recruits for the NWL, and then we had Rip Rogers was there as a trainer as well.
Oh, right. Remember, what happened to Rip Rogers? He dead?
No, he's still alive.
Because I remember for a while on Twitter, he was always ripping guys like, "Oh, you're not a real wrestler," blah blah blah. And then it'd be like,
I would legitimately take Rip Rogers' tweets and copy and paste it, and his inspirational message for the cycle would be that.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun there, and then like their TV show, which we had a TV show, was NWO Main Event. It took place from the Alexander Asylum, so it was literally from Luther's house. That's where they would shoot TV. So
right, and then it burned down.
It burned down in a match between Phantom Striker and Crazy Carl. They killed the robot. So Luther had the assistant commissioner, which was Rob the Robot. So Luther's best friend was a robot. It was the Rocky IV robot, by the way, and the robot burned up in the fire. I'm surprised no one's ever tried to bring that back. And that's the first appearance of Ted the Wrestling Bear is involved with that as well. So it's all kinds of shenanigans.
I think my favorite Luther Alexander moment, one of my favorite ones, besides when he was trying to bang Scotty Flash's grandmother.
He tried to marry her for her citizenship. Yeah, for her citizenship.
Was when he left Chief Bold Gray Fox at a horse.
Yeah, so so to explain that story is funny. So we did this angle where he's fighting, that whole crew with it was Jane the Vixen Red, it was Bold Gray Fox, it was a bunch of dudes, right? And he contracted out Mike Mason to do the whole Godfather thing where, Bold Gray Fox wanted to ride horses with Samantha Soley. It was a weird concept, but he was lusted. And this is Samantha Soley at the time was babyface, so she was just a straight babyface announcer, first female announcer in the NWL. She is the granddaughter of Gordon Soley, which I think people forget about that as well. Like,
right.
The whole concept of Samantha Soley is that she was like this legit journalist who went to journalism school, and she'd worked for ESPN, and she came in and she's saddled with the good old Pierre Roulette, who's a lecherous old like mafioso Las Vegas guy.
Sleazeball.
Yeah, it's just a sleazeball, and he would say inappropriate things to her all the time, and so he's Bold Gray Fox is lusting after Samantha Soley. Soley is like trying to be nice, but doesn't really want to mess around with them all that much. So they kidnapped this horse, Bold Gray Fox's horse, and chopped his head off and puts it in the bed with him. And he wakes up screaming with the dead horse, and that kicks off that feud. I don't know. Maybe you could post the link for get the link for Jeff. I
saw that.
Yeah, hold on a second. So again, shenanigans and Tom Fuller with Revolution Extreme, who've been doing this for forever. Like even the first incarnation of Revolution Extreme was it was Luther, it was Mike Mason, it was Ghetto Master Jr., E-Train, Phantom Striker, what was it? Jack Havoc was a part of that.
Was he really? Oh yeah.
No, I think it was his brother, Matt Havoc, Matt Mayhem, somebody.
Matt Mayhem, Jack Havoc, Chris Chaos, and Matt Mayhem. Yep. Because I remember there was the two Matt Mayhems. There was a Matt Mayhem and MML, and he was all mad. The commissioner's like, "Oh, I'm here first." It's like, dude, it's a rookie. No one cares. Like the odds of the guy who survives the NWL long enough to become a problem for your name is money down the line.
So that was the first incarnation, and then John Revolution comes back and tries to take over Revolution Extreme from Luther, and then Luther beats him up, sticks him in a casket, and sets it on fire. So Johnny has to learn his place, and he disappears for another fucking year. Then we bring him back again. Once we had the Revolution Extreme Civil War, which was a thing. Noble House was sort of in Revolution Extreme for a moment, also.
Oh, Noble House. Be down and get put down.
So they were there. They were there for a while, and that's when they imploded. And then Luther basically restarted it. We're in Revolution Extreme version 2, by the way, for those of you who are keeping score.
Well, I'm trying to think. It was because it was Luther and Atari were teamed up for a while until like 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, right when we started the show.
Yeah, and then they had the split, and we had Atari go good, and we had Luther be bad, and that was like that kind of.
Yeah, which is like what again an amazing compliment for me personally. Is like we took Ali Atari, which is probably the top heel at the time, the most villainous character literally in the planet, and we were able to turn him babyface.
I had so much. Atari was fun because I always feel like I know it wasn't RX, but when we had Foreign Legion Part 2 when they had IWL, we did a thing where I forget which it was Wrestle Riot maybe, and we had the thing where everybody who was in a match turned on their partner and joined like Foreign Legion. So like we had turn for turn, and the Foreign Legion was built up, and that was fun. And then went away, whatever. But we still had Luther and Atari.
Oh, that was the
who were terrible partners. Like we never won a tag belt.
We never won anything.
We were awful for whatever reason.
We've got a sneak attack run in here, guys. It's Jeff. It's Jeff.
Oh my God.
What's going on?
Let's go. We're just talking some history, some IWA IWAR history. So
yeah, the RX is a plague on the pox on the IWL
for a while. Yeah, we did some fun stuff. So it's like. And it kept on upping the stakes and upping the stakes when it came down to them. Like obviously they had their feud with Empire and Chaos and the Regulators.
That's what you stuck a pencil in Brian Patrick's eye.
No, it was a chicken bone.
Oh, chicken bone.
It was a chicken bone in the eye. It took a chicken bone to the eye.
So we should get Ryan on this call, and he could talk about the Empire of Chaos.
Yeah. It goes back to Luther winning the IWL heavyweight championship that he won for, and he loses it too because I double hold to the Dungeon Masters, Nagward, whatever that motherfucker's name. But he loses it pretty quickly. Luther loses it on his second defense of that belt when I double the hold. So it's like I lost it by disqualification. It was so bad. I'm like, you can't lose a belt on DQ. So I used that for months, saying how I was got ripped off with the title. I think it was the Dungeon Master who won it, and then I think Sandy the Bear Francisco won it.
I had a curse because every time I win the belt, I'd lose it right away. Because remember, Lucha won it and then lost it. And that's why
we changed the rule. That's the Lucha
the Lucha rule. Oh my God, that was so awful.
So we used to
I was so excited to win that title. I really was. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And then I lose it right back. Like,
so what the rule used to be, when you won the IWL World Championship, the champion would get an automatic rematch. I think the next cycle.
Yeah. Boo.
So to win that belt, you have to beat the champion twice. So Luther did it with Sasha. He beat Sasha twice.
Yeah. Yep. And IWL again. It's a lot of history there. I try to get Ryan the link, but I don't think it's gonna work. That's okay.
But
he was at Dave Matthews last night, or
good for him. Weekend. Good for him.
Or this weekend, he was at Dave Matthews, so he's recovering.
So I have a good question since we have both Aaron and Jeff on. When you joined the NWO, what was going on at the time?
I think I remember my first cycle. The big kahuna was Yoko Tuna when I came in. I think my first or second cycle, he just went on a tear, won the league championship, the battle royal, a couple of elite titles.
Yeah.
And then I was Yoko Tuna, Flashy Jack, Ferdinand, and someone else were kind of battling it out for the Young Lions championship. And then, I think right at that time, those guys left almost right away, and we had the influx of Mick Ferrari, Rhett Grady, Rod Camino, Zydrate.
Yeah, it was good. It was, again, I always make this remark that we go through these cycles where you have this group graduates, and you're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And then pow, we get these new players that come in, like Zanroar.
They step up
Mark
every
Justice.
time. I used to get panicked emails all the time saying, "What are you going to do now?" And I was in there like, relax. Go ahead, Jeff.
So I have every report since I started back in. I just pulled my folder. My first cycle back was June of 21, and Nivik Largo was the league champion. The Impact player, Leon Phoenix, was a TV champion. Stevie Vertigo was already into his reign as Young Lions champion, which would be ended by Country Hammer Rhett Grady a few months later.
Rubbing
a total package U.S. mail was hardcore champion. And this was still when Lance Horowitz, Horowitz was still kind of like the big prospect, I guess, at the time. We had some other names like Zydrate was in the Young Lions championship match coming up. This was Clash of Champions 19. Some of the names in the ladder match were guys who were for the hardcore champion, number one contender, how we kind of do that now with all the new guys. Mike Dynasty, Fighter X, Mick Ferrari, California Gunslayer, King Amin, Robbie Meyer, Lone Star Redneck, and then a little name from the past here, Gonna Get Got Scott.
Oh man.
That was my first cycle back. So I remember the first IWAR. I think I have here the first IWAR magazine I got. I think it had Lance Horowitz on the cover, maybe, or no. Oh shit! Let's see here. It had Barry Stevens on the cover.
Son of a bitch.
Elimination Chamber. It said outnumbered 5-1. Barry Stevens retains the UVU title and takes on his old rival Joe Bull.
You know what's really funny about that whole thing with Barry Stevens was the plan was to move the title off of him. So I kept telling him, well, just do like a number, like an elimination match or a triple threat match, and it kept getting higher and higher, and he kept winning. So it's like, all right, so like, hell with it, I'm gonna make a big deal out of this. And then I just had fun with it. But I think it's one of the things I always think about is it's important to put together a good promo / good cycle, because there's somebody out there that's their first look at the game.
Yeah.
That's what they're seeing. So when they see the write-ups in the Magic Bash, or they see the write-ups for Clash Champions, like those players are coming in, like they're digesting this. And for a lot of players, because we know this is kind of a thing, they played when they were a kid, and when you played when you were a kid, it was like nothing like this at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, look at all this stuff, and then it's like, okay, how can I get in there and get involved? And
what hooked me was that we had written pay-per-views, so there was it wasn't just like I remember when I was a kid, you'd get your packet, it would literally be like 2 pages, and it was just match results. But the storyline aspect and having matches written up, it's almost like we're literally like booking a territory, and that's what hooked me right away.
The one thing that I'm noticing about some of these bulletins from when I first joined is we're at a robust 40 pages in the bulletin, and I think we're steadily at 70 these days. So I don't know if that speaks to the level of trash talk, or maybe that fluctuates in different leagues depending on who's involved in those leagues. But
it all depends, especially the NWL, depends how many people we have in at a time. So if we get a big influx, which happens, it's feast or famine sometimes with them. So sometimes we're stuck at such and such number, and then all of a sudden 20 guys just join up. You're like, holy crap! And then and then we get the exoduses, and then it dies down for a couple of cycles, and then picks right back up again.
I'm looking at New Wave League number 167 from June 2021, and the league champion in his only league championship reign is the Hebrew Hammer Lance Horowitz, the much maligned Hebrew Hammer Lance Horowitz. And then as TV champion, I'm seeing the Playboy Mick Ferrari, and that might have been Mick's first title reign in the NWL. I think him and Rhett were pretty new at that time.
Yeah, I think we came in one cycle apart. He was there. Mick came in one cycle before Rhett, so he must have came in May or maybe April.
Intertwined rivals.
I will say this. We had a lot of great players in the NWL in 2021, But I honestly think the TT right now is better than it was last year. I think we have a lot better writers now. Maybe we have more people who are writing.
You know what it is too, because people learn from each other, right? So if you're consistently having, I'm a new player, I'm looking at the TT, I'm like, oh, this is what I have to do? Okay. Like my entire TT, in the beginning, I was just studying Ghostly Shadows, who was my inspiration for my original set of TT that I used to do. I used to do watermarks in the back and stuff. Like, I do all kinds of crazy shit. But looks like we have a special guest. Is this true? We do have a special guest.
That sums it up.
Ryan Patrick, what's happening, buddy?
I figured this whole thing out. Thought I'd just stop in, say hi, listen to you guys for a minute.
Oh. So I don't know if you heard on last night's show when I put you over huge about being the founder of the IWL and now the official historian of the IWL.
He blamed all the league's problems on you. He was like, it's all because of the way it was set up.
It's like the first time in any of these things I've heard anything positive. in how much it's been a decade. I don't know. So I kind of feel like it was just a setup.
No.
Oh, no.
It's only been 6 years that we've been doing this.
6 years of setup. We're playing the long-term booking.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the 10th year's where it's going to be at. I'm waiting for the big drop.
So Ryan, I wanted to ask you the inception, the birth of the IWL. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what was your mindset, and what were your initial aspirations for the league?
It honestly started because I was quitting the IWA. Believe it or not. I had not been in it for I don't how long it was, and I was bored. I was like, I want to just play by mail thing still there. And it was. I'm like, oh, $5 a month. That's something. And I got into a league that was brand new. And I guess it was the commissioner, but there was nothing being done. So I just took over. I just started doing it.
You stole it.
I stole it, but there was no fight back. So I don't know. If no
much like how Matt stole the BRL.
Yeah, if no one files a report, did you really steal it?
That's a good point.
Right.
And it went through, it got really popular, then it kind of died down when it got flooded, then it got popular, then it died down a second time when it got flooded, and it just didn't really come back from that. So I just emailed Kim and said, hey, I'm stopping playing, this league isn't fun anymore, I don't know if there's anything else there for me, so, thanks for everything. She sends me an email back that says, well, why don't you just start a new league? And I didn't know you could do that. So I just kind of I thought, I was like, well, if I do something that's got to be different than what everybody else does, it has to be at least one thing different. And it can't be the same thing that a lot of people put out, like, hey, this could be a fun league with a lot of trash talk and a lot of active players. Come join. Well, that's what everybody says.
Right. It's never true.
It's never happened. Never. So I thought of a few things, and one thing I wanted to know stable initials, because that's when I first played. Like, you didn't need that. Like, you knew who everybody was through the promos and the trash talks and the sneak attacks. You just read it and you knew who was in there. You didn't have to be told about it. And then
which still gets me heat, by the way. People are still mad at me about it all the time.
Lots of backstage heat on the stable initials.
And now I'm never changing that. Never ever changing that.
Good.
The one storyline that stays all the way through. And then I kind
of liked your reasoning behind that. The point where you said, like, if you don't know what stable a guy's in, maybe it's more the TT. The TT's got to be a little bit more on point. Like, we can name some of these stables in the IWAR at the moment, like Revolution Extreme or the Industry or Whoop Ass Inc. And, it's because those guys are some of the top TTers. So I think you kind of got a point there, actually. I like that approach.
I think it's even easier now because more back then, I don't know how to put it. Like, there was, like, now you see, like, Revolution Extreme, it's almost like its own page. And people put in pictures, like, their guys together. And, like, it's more it explains easily. Like, so you don't have to know every single thing. Just read it. There's pictures. There's people have their own pages, and it's easier to figure out who's who.
Yeah.
So after that, like, okay, I can't. I wish I still had a list of what I put on. Actually, I don't really ever put anything online. It was like, I don't know. At some point in time, this is when I kind of started talking to Matt.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm waiting for you to drop when the dungeon blew up at you.
That's yeah, but I don't know if I had. I don't remember the timeline. Like, was I talking to you before or it was like after? But I put on that I was starting this new. Actually, I didn't even put it on. I didn't put it on the dungeon at all.
No, you didn't. That's what made them mad.
Yeah, I put something on somewhere.
You didn't ask for permission.
I didn't ask for permission to start a new league from this group, but it had, and it was just destroyed. For everything I put down, like every idea was just, the limits, the stable initials. The only thing, man, do you remember the one thing that no matter how much they hated the idea, the one thing everybody liked was the Triple Crown.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was every month you'd get 5 extra matches. Like basically, if you won the league tag, and the league 6-man on the same guy, and had some kind of trash talk, you'd get this, rolling progressive pot of money and free matches. And it took I think Connick was the first one to win it, but it was the one cycle he didn't trash talk.
Right, that's right.
We were all just so pissed because if someone finally did it, was a good guy was going to have it. I remember talking to him like, dude, I'm sorry, but that's the rule. And he's like, I understand completely, don't worry about it. And then one of his guys won the next cycle. So it kind of made up for that. But yeah, that thing got dogged in the beginning, like on that part of it. And I was like, well, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Maybe they know something I don't. And I mean, within just a few months, it was a juggernaut.
Yep.
It's huge.
Launched was really strong.
And I think the concepts are so strong. And the pay-per-views are so strong, and the events are so strong. I really didn't have to change anything. I basically put a coat of paint on it and just let it go.
Now Don King's running it, so
now that well,
really.
that's an interesting concept because commissioners, I don't think it works long term. It does. I don't think it. You fade out, and now every year or two, I change the commissioner, and I change it's the excuse of why I changed the look of it. New commission, new look. It keeps the leagues fresh. And you've seen the 30 figures in wrestling. They don't necessarily, Jack Tunney, who was president for like 12 years. They tend to change up quite a bit, and especially in the modern era of wrestling, those 30 figures don't stay very long. It's just the concept, but again, the tournament concepts and the Soul Survivor specifically, amazing concepts, and it made the league successful. And there was always it's always been a top league, and go ahead.
Well, one thing when we started off, I was like, man, I didn't think it would be as big as it was, but I was like, man, if I get like 7-8 guys that just want to have fun and just have storylines and feuds and have fun with it. And at the same time, the IWAR started going, which was a natural fit for this whole thing. But then I didn't think it was going to be like a tough league. Like, you had the BRL, you had some other leagues that were like, you knew you had to have like great scores. I thought like this could be like a nice intermediate, but it's gotten. I don't win anything anymore. This has gotten tough. Like, I just looked. I still keep track of the historian part of me. If that Triple Crown thing was still going, it'd be up to 410 matches because it's been like.
I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, no one's ever winning this.
Not now.
I think Matt was the last one to win it.
Yeah.
It was cycle 77. He won 145 matches.
Was it Axel or Alex?
It was Alex. So we're looking at between 80 and 90 cycles, and no one's pulled that off yet.
Who's good at math?
Not me. You seen my strategies? Jesus Christ.
400 matches, baby. Actually, I stole that gimmick for the BRL.
You did.
And it took forever. Punk Rock Mike finally won it. And no one's won it. And we're over 300 matches. And I told Kim, look, I'm going to bump it down to 100 and take all those extra free matches and start divvying them out to people. Because it just feels like we're wasting. The BRL is so tough because you have like someone that's 5'16" for the tag, 5'21" for the 6. There's not, it's like it's almost impossible.
It might be better used in the NWL.
Yeah, oh yeah, could do that too. I got a pool of free matches to work with, so I got to
So that might be more of a thing over there because
it's been happening like crazy in the NWL.
It has. It's insane. I think it was 4 cycles in a row now. We've had a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah,
that's bizarre. It's just, I mean, it's good to see because it's a good thing to have in your resume and be like a Triple Crown winner, a Triple Crown winner.
I think a couple of quadruple crowns too, with guys winning the Battle Royal as well.
Right.
League, tag team, 6-man, and Battle Royal.
Fantastic.
I dig that.
So
actually, while Ryan's here, I can ask Ryan too. Do you want to talk about your stable? Because we're talking about IWL stables. We talked about RX, Empire Chaos, and Regulators and all that.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. Just on one's on a hiatus and the other's. I don't know what they're doing anymore.
They're hanging out with Luther.
Did you graveyard them?
Empire is, yeah.
Okay.
There's something I might do to bring them back. I've got something planned, or if I can kind of get my interest back up a little bit more, that I've got something planned for them, but It's not the time yet.
That's the hardest part. The hardest part is, those TTs every 3 weeks. Sometimes it's like, and you put a commissioner report on top of that. You know what I mean? That's like I'm writing TT. I'm in the hospital. I got my arm in a sling. I'm coming out of surgery. Getting the stuff done. And it's tough. You can get burned out. It's just you got to do stuff to keep yourself interested. So
I think Alex and I have both had surgery and done the reports injured like one hand.
Yeah.
Well, the Reg needs something to deal with. They've literally had a streak of however many years they've been in the IWL that they never, when they got to the pay-per-view, never lost the final match.
All right.
Right.
And
now it's happened with the Von Snaps, and they're also the ones that stopped them from being the other the world 6-man champions. The IWAR 6-man. It's like this is like the last, not this last cycle, but the one before. I literally just said in the thing we'll get you later. Like we're done with this. We need a different game plan for these 3.
The dregs.
The first team that has their number. So we'll get them later somehow.
Hey Ryan, I asked these other guys. I want to ask you the same question. Do you remember what was going on in your first bulletin in? Like, what was the big stories, the big TT? Like, who were the top guys? Like your first cycle
in the IWA or IWL?
IWA, either or.
When I got to the UEL, it was only the second cycle they had it, so there was really nothing going on. And then, you started the IWL, so it took. I wish we had some of those guys. I remember you still have a thing in the bulletin for Roach's Wrestlers, which I thought was the greatest.
Oh, those guys are awesome.
They were so terrible. They were great. Not terrible, not well written or not, but they were just terrible people. And that Monty Roach character, I'll look back at former stables and champions, man, I wish he would come back. I wish he would come back so bad. He was so much fun.
I emailed him a couple of times, trying to reach out to him. Come on, man.
I've sent a couple of Facebook messages and I don't think what I have is hooked up to him anymore. But
yeah, for those guys outside not knowing, Monty Roach looked kind of like Carl from a cross between Carl and Paul Heyman. Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Paul Heyman. And he was just so funny because it was like you could see him being a real heel manager.
He's like the worst person ever.
Yeah, and he had a great gimmick about his Monty Roach's help tips, whatever, and he'd make fake ads, and it would be 42 guaranteed. Hey, it was good, man.
And he's married to Sasha with this big steroid out, Russian chick,
right?
Who did had a little feud with Luther, and Luther snuck into their marital bedroom and stole Sasha's panties, and then during the main event match for the title, Luther comes out wearing them on his head. So that was some fun times for sure. But I guess everyone in the chat is talking about like the kind of like the first thing that they noticed, or the first thing that really got their attention, or the top guys. I think for me in the NWL when I started, Koenig was there. The Great David was a big deal. You had Rowdy Reskingini. He was causing trouble.
Oh yeah.
He was the first guy to win the IWA World out of the NWL, right?
He's the only NWL wrestler to win the IWA title.
So that's
still. We've had some guys win the Elite.
Right.
But IWA Championship, yeah.
So,
I remember when it happened, I was like, are you kidding me?
Like seeing that, like your first couple of cycles in, him win the belt, was like, holy shit. Like, rookies are doing big things.
But I want to go back to your point about like what you remember when you first got in and how important it is, because Jeff talked about he still remembers what's going on. I remember for me, when I joined IWA, it was May of '87. I was like,
God
13.
damn.
I know. And I got this sheet, and it was like, here's the wrestlers in your league, and like the names were like really crazy. There was like a bunch of racist names. Like, oh my god! Like now I look back, I'm like, wow, that wouldn't fly now. But
like K-Way Wakamatsu.
Oh, a lot of spear chucker type words
Wow.
and stuff like that. Oh yeah. But anyways, there was a lot of really good players in there. We lucked out. So what I did is I liked the game, so I sent $5 to the IWA, and I'm like, can you send me because it was $1 a bulletin. I said, can you send me your 5 best leagues? And they sent me the Grandmasters League, the Battle Royal League, the All-Star League, the Power Pack League, and I think it was like Snake League or one of those other leagues, right? So the GML, it just so happened that the bulletin they sent me was a year-end awards issue. And it was amazing. It was like this huge thing. It talked about all these feuds. There was a guy called Blitzkrieg who was the bad guy. And there was Power Team USA, and there were the good guys. And it was just so there was lots of trash talk. And that was my first wow, I want to make a league like this. I want to be part of this. And there was this guy called Rich the Anvil Farrell. He was like the top babyface. And his wife, Crystal, just came back from pregnancy. So my guy was a heel. So, of course, I came out and I was beating the shit out of Rich Farrell. And she's like, please leave him alone. Don't hurt him. I'm like, I won't hurt him. I pile through for her. And the whole league went after me. It was like, it worked. The whole league was like I got sneak attacked by even bad guys came after me. That was crossing the line. It was too far. And that was my first kind of, some of the guys in the league were like, hey, I wrote, because they used to actually, believe it or not, they used to play his addresses in the bulletin. You could say like, hey, drop me a line or whatever.
And they got stalked and murdered.
Well, one of the things that never, a close call for IWA, was IWA was going to do a yearbook. And it was going to be a thing where they put every player, their wrestlers, their records, and then their address, and you could basically write to each other. And I think they had the right idea to it really would have helped strengthen the game, but it would have given competitors a basic phone book on how to allow the players. So they nixed that idea. It didn't happen. But that's why we have Facebook now. I know.
Yeah, to me, the Facebook, the IWAR network, really kind of kicked a lot of that stuff off. And now we used to post there more. We don't really post as much as we used to. Like I used to post all my pictures and a lot of my TT before it even hit the bulletin on the page. We had the mega match, which was a lot of fun. We should do the mega match again. So for those of you who may be new, the mega match was this thing it was this thing I did in high school for creative writing class where you would start the story and then the person next to you would continue the story and so on and so forth. So the story would go out of control and crazy. So we did that for a match write-up. So I started out the match write-up, such happens, and then I would pass it to another person, and they would write some more, and another person would write some more, and then the match became completely insane. Matt, you probably still have that somewhere.
I did. Well, we did it. Don't forget, we did it online on the Facebook page.
And we posted it in the bulletin, right?
I don't know if it was bulletin or not, but I remember for sure it was online because we had Agent 26 was the champion, and the winner was what's his name, Ricky Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the NWL rookie, and it was the idea of the mega match was the champions came out and defended a triple threat match or a four-way match, but each opponent was Justin?
Is that hearing us?
I hear me.
Hold on.
Anyway, first, Derek Tuttle, first league is 0 hour.
Hold on, Matt. Your mic went dead. I hear it too, but they're not hearing it. Say something. Okay.
Mark Albrecht is actually Mark Justice.
Is he? Bless his heart.
Heo the Teamster's good, close personal friend. Still, by the way, one of my favorite terms I still use from wrestling with the Jim Cornette line of Davy Crockett, my close personal friend.
So Justin Vickers' first league was the Jolly Rogers League. What the fuck is that?
That was real league. Wow. There were some names. I think you asked Alex if we get a list of all the defunct leagues.
Yeah.
So if Johnny B's listening, he probably will. Is there a way to get a list of all of the leagues? And probably the best thing to do, really, honestly, I can go through my paper library and try to find like every year and see if the leagues are listed. Because we had, I think if I have it available real quick, there were leagues like, like Jolly Roger, like who named this? Like how much pot was smoked? Like was Johnny B like, I need a league name. Dad, can we go to KFC? Crazed Chicken League. All right, that'll do it.
I wonder what the craziest name is.
I believe there was a league named after a player once.
Really?
Yeah. There was that player that faked his own death, and that was a really crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was, I remember when the whole thing was like all these players wrote this nice like notes and everything, and then it was like he's not dead, and it was like, oh, he faked his death. He's kicked. Everyone didn't talk about Johnny B. What are some of the offenses people have been banned from the game over? Yeah, that's a juicy topic. So while I'm thinking of it, so each guy in the group here. So like Aaron, where did you get Stevie Vertigo from? Like where did that come from?
I've had that one kicking around for a little while. I actually used it as a name in backyard wrestling, probably back in like 2004 or so. And I don't really know how I came up with it. I just kind of liked it and stuck with it. So I've been using it ever since, off and on, for different projects. How about you, Jeff? Rec Grady.
So when I was growing up, I worked summers on a farm that was legitimately the Grady farm. The family owned a whole bunch of shit around here. They owned like car dealerships and garages and everything. And so it was just a name that was in the back of my head. And I always kind of thought of them as like backwards hillbillies. And that was originally, Rhett Grady was supposed to be kind of heelish. Like a heelish, kind of like a really, really mean and angry hillbilly Jim. Or like the Godwins. Like that was actually right. when I was developing Rhett Grady in my head, I had the Godwins in my head. Like a combination between the Godwins and the Briscoes. Not the old Briscoes, the current Briscoes.
Right.
And the Grady name was just something that was always there, and so I just grabbed it, and then the Rhett part, I don't know. I just looked up on Google like the top 100 hillbilly names for babies, and Rhett was on the list, and it just sounded real good together. Rhett Grady, like butter, So I don't know. It wasn't like any like magical thing. It just sort of like a bunch of parts I put together, and what I kind of just went with it. When he started to kind of be played as a baby face, I just kind of rolled with it. Now he's like, now he's like babyface, like Mr. Babyface, you know. But yeah, and then Roe. I actually had a friend growing up named Roe, so you know, and they're all R's, obviously, and that's actually the Grady's that I knew growing up. They were all their names started with R's. So yeah.
Right.
You know, I'm sure everybody has, you know, similar stories. You know, I will say this. I have an idea in my head for a white meat babyface wrestler that I'm really kicking around the idea. I just don't know if I can dedicate enough time to write the TTs for it, but could be coming soon.
Okay, that's fine. You know, we're always, you know, I know for all of us, you know, having kind of a core character is fun, and it's always when you get a really good like energy, like when I like U.S. Mail just kind of hit me. It was like special delivery. And I was like total package. And I was like, okay.
Well, you had the email. You had the evil mailman gimmick in your pocket for a long time.
I did.
We talked about that many times.
The idea of having him be like outside the Woolwick office and like shredding the bulletins. Now those 13-year-old kids won't get these paper bulletins, will they? But I think that's the thing when you have a really good idea and like kind of, you know, like author back into the page turner, you know, like the different ideas over the years. So I need to know, where did the names for the regulators come from, Ryan?
Just when I think you said you got into the IWA in '87. I think my first time through was like '87 through '89.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin got me into this, and he had Frank and Jesse James. I had Billy the Kid. My brother had Wild Bill, and we had some other guys with us. I've always just like the Young Gun movies.
I love those
just
flicks.
Stuff like that. So it basically just was finding a version of something like that.
Could have killed you, Dick.
Like famous. So I mean that's as simple as it gets. I just wanted those. I just always liked that kind of those characters, and I thought it'd work. And that's just...
Well, what about the Empire of Chaos? You know, which was let's see if I remember right. It was main event Dylan Matthews. No, primetime Dylan.
Then primetime Alex Styles. And then Alex's favorite, Triple X.
There's not 3 X's.
I remember when I did that. One of you guys had done something kind of funny. And I was like, okay, this will just be funny. Because I had no plan on keeping these guys. They were like supposed to be like a 6-month thing. But I thought if I name him Triple X and I put extreme with an E, it would just be funny. And for some reason, it's just irritated the shit out of you. And so like, it honestly makes no sense. For Extreme Xavier Jimenez does not have 3 X's, but it just irritates you. I just never changed.
At least I noticed it.
Mr. Electricity Joe Boring.
Yeah.
I will say Joe Boring is one of my favorite characters in the NWL for a long time, and it was the promos, you know. And we've had some really good classes come out of there as far as like group of players, and I always felt that, you know, when you have really good feuds and really good writers going head to head. You know, like Mick Ferrari, you know, recreated that feud, and Stevie Vertigo, and that, you know, it lends itself to further down the line. You know, I will say though that there are some names. I remember Scott, his favorite wrestler name here, like the first early wrestler name he remembers is like made him like remember the wrestler name was Terry the Hairy Fairy. For the longest time, I have thought about bringing back a masked enemy to attack his guy, and he would unmask and be Terry the Hairy Fairy. I just never got around to it. But for all you guys, have you ever had like what was the first name that made it stood out to you as far as like a wrestler name that you're like, oh, that name, you know, either funny or you liked it, or, you know, not your own, just somebody else's wrestler?
Zaccaroni, the San Francisco Heat.
Okay.
Who came up with that one?
Who's there? I remember if that was part of that. Maybe Bob did that one. That was an NWL name, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was so ridiculous. Like it's like one of the first things I saw. Like what the?
We did like a whole. I think it was in 2011. I did a whole like reboot with the Jobbers and the BRL.
Yeah.
So like all the guys were like Buddy Botox and Lex FedEx, and a lot of the wrestlers in the BRL, the older jobbers, are named after guys from the CCL Claw and Cat League, my first league, that just were really good players I played with. Noble Sheik, Sexy Stan James, Gentleman Steve Corey.
I'm pretty sure all my jobbers are in place still in the NWL that I renamed. And they're all still there.
Oh.
Santo Gold.
Oh yeah.
Look that up, by the way, because it's hilarious. You're going to have to Google those names for sure.
The first name I saw when I came back, and it wasn't an NWL name. I think it might have been BRL or IWL. And it caught me, and the entire persona of the character was, was it Steel Cut Oats?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was Larry's guy.
Yeah.
Steel Cut Oats.
That was a good one.
That was a cool character. And then I've always been a fan of the mannequins characters. I just think that's such a and the chameleon. Like those are cool concepts for characters, like the mannequins. They could pretty much be anybody, and I haven't really seen like the chameleon. I haven't seen a lot of the stuff that the chameleon has done, but I'm assuming that his name has something to do with. Does he like mock people?
No, what he used to do, he used to emulate other people's TTs. So he would picture perfect other people's TT, and then at the end it revealed it's chameleon.
Yeah, he did sneak attacks where he would be dressed as somebody else. And there's a cover from the IWAR, I think, at one point, where I had or maybe it was an NWL cover, where he had like different images of his various costumes and his whatever. But he had like all these different images, and of course, it was using the wrestling game engine to create the images, so it was really good to work with. Quick side note: my group of friends were talking me into getting a PS5. So if I do that, it means good news, I got a PS5. Bad news, I got to redo all my wrestlers' images. Ugh.
Yeah. Are you still using what 19? Are you both?
I'm still using 19. Yeah.
Yeah, those servers are gonna come down soon. So
they're down.
They're down. They're down already. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you mean as far like I know when I log into 19, it says there's no longer online.
So you can't download anything.
I don't know if you can download anything or not. I mean, I can still upload images and grab them in the game.
Yeah. I don't think you can actually do the like if you want to try to get the Ric Flair package or whatever. I don't know if you can get it or not. I haven't tried it, but I was thinking to myself, I'm kind of stupid for them to say like, oh, we can get a player to pay $10 for this Ric Flair package and get all these various things. Why would they take $10 out of their pocket? But
right.
I think it was probably more money than it was worth, I guess.
I had the 22 game in my hand, a used copy at GameStop, and they wanted $44.99 or something like that.
Lord.
And I came close to buying it, but I really don't know. I don't really know what all's been upgraded, from 19 to 22. And I didn't want to spend $45 for the same damn game, and I don't play it. I don't play the game. Like I don't
play it either. I just design.
I just use the creative aspects of it. So, anyway, so I ended up buying a Marvel Legend instead. So I didn't get the game.
And if someone just made a creative wrestler like just app or a game and sold it for like $15, it would sell gangbusters.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I remember back in the day playing in eFeds, and I think I was in there's a big network. I think it was called Primetime Central or something like that. And they were all doing 3D figures, and I didn't figure it out at the time, but they must have been using a game engine. I was just always blown away by what they were doing, but that must have been what they were doing. That was probably back in 2004 or 5 or something like that, or even earlier than that, maybe.
There are certain wrestlers like Dolph Ziggler comes to mind, or Zack Ryder, whatever he calls himself now, that almost they're good wrestlers. They almost look like a wrestling game engine eFed wrestler came to life. Like
they're the creative wrestler.
Yeah. Like oh my god, creative wrestler. Like oh of course, which is fine. But I was gonna say, we've been talking about various things. Name a wrestler you wish came back. Like somebody you played with, you thought you would like to be like, I wish they were still playing.
Fighter X.
Fighter X.
He had some potential. I really liked where his character was going, and I was hoping that he'd continue on, but maybe he's just taking a break. He could be back though.
Yeah.
I want to see Mike Dynasty come back full time.
He is. Well, we noticed this last night. He is back in the BRL.
Yeah, I know. He actually, I think he's active, but
yeah.
I want to see the TTs come back because I really thought his TTs were just out of this world.
I was saying to Matt last night, like there's a lot of potential there for like a surprise return for Mike Dynasty at one of the cards, or maybe at Autumn Anarchy if we could work that out behind the scenes. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. How about you, Ryan?
My one person. What was that Jedi guy name that took Atari's head off?
Anakin Black.
God damn it!
It was Yarishi the something Jedi, and he took a lightsaber. And cut Ali Atari's head off.
Yeah, that was the worst. I'd like to see the return of Logan Kane.
Yeah,
and, Larry come back.
That's a good one.
But
Alexander's J Styles for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
he's
Booty McGee.
Booty McGee. Oh.
With the big
I still
booty
wonder who the
express.
backstabber was.
You think you think the backstabber was someone fucking with us, or you think he was just a guy?
Well, it's kind of, remember the guy in the CWL, Big Bad Bob?
Yeah.
Same idea. Like this, I think there's a different world. Like this, like the guy that ran the Badass American Bikers, David Welker.
Right.
He just was in his own little thing and did his own promo every month, and it was the same. And like, all right, and you couldn't really work with them, so you kind of just, they existed.
They're just there doing their own
Right.
thing.
The killer Jedi Inuyasha.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, boo.
That's what the Empire Cast is doing. They're searching the country for this guy.
They're looking for was it Mick Foley? Who was Mick Foley looking for? Or was they looking for Mick Foley in the WCW?
There was one where Mick Foley had amnesia.
That's right.
There was also the one where they were searching for Stan Hansen and they never found him.
You don't want to find Stan Hansen.
It was Dutch Mantel and I forget who else, maybe Dick Slater. And they were going around looking for Stan Hansen, but due to the fact that it's WCW, they never paid it off, so they never found him.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna get a storyline now with Vince McMahon just disappears and never gets mentioned again.
He gets blown up in a limo again.
For real. And Linda McMahon's like cackling. Linda, no.
Did Triple H come back on NXT? I heard
He was in the Performance Center. He's saying, "I'm back, bitches."
Yeah. Let him run the show again. Jesus, and just stay out of his way.
And I don't know if Jeff Jarrett just came back, but he's back as well behind the scenes.
Yeah, he's like a vice president now. Good for him. Smartest man in wrestling. Him and Kevin Nash.
My favorite Jeff Jarrett moment in the last 10 years or so was he was at Triple Mania and Ray Phoenix went to do a move like out of the ring like a tope. And Jeff had to step over to catch him right, but when he did, they both went over the ringside railing, and like I think it was Ray Phoenix's foot like kicked the wife of the company owner in the face, and it was just like, oh. I
thought your favorite was when he was drunk and he started handing out fucking tortillas at fucking AAA, and he's throwing tortillas in the crowd, and almost got killed.
Also good.
And he was also hammered. Like, oh no, he's not gonna make it out of Mexico alive.
Yep.
It sounds like the Global Force thing that he did was a pretty big deal. I thought I heard about it somewhere along the way, but when they teamed up with New Japan and they did like a big cross-promotional pay-per-view and they aired part of it in America, and I can't remember the exact details, but it sounded like that was a pretty big deal at the time.
And they sold fake gold. Global Force Wrestling big in India, by the way. It's a true story. True story. Do you guys think it's weird that both Ring of Honor and Ring of Honor sort of currently, but they lasted longer. Them and TNA lasted longer than WCW and ECW. Like they've been around for so long at this point.
Right.
Like we're their 20th anniversary for fucking TNA.
Well, here's the thing. But TNA, who's the money behind that?
Sinclair Media.
That's Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor sold to Tony Khan. TNA Anthem Media in Canada.
I know, but like who's who's the person who backed it? I always think about that. Like these companies have been around. These wrestling companies have been able to like withstand the time to still be around. And it's like, I don't know if you saw the promo last night on Dynamite, but Christian Cage did a promo, and one of the things he talked about was these wrestlers talking about want to be memorable. When's the last memorable match that you had that people are still talking about? And what's the memorable moment? I always think my criticism of AEW and at most wrestling companies now is name your biggest moment that doesn't involve a wrestler returning or debuting. Like, what is it? What's the moment? Because that's great when Kenny Omega comes back. Oh, are we happy and excited Kenny Omega's back? But what are the moments besides like that like stand out? Kind of like Triple H. I'm not Triple H. Shawn Michaels putting Jannetty through a window.
It's been a while.
Barry Windham turning. Yeah.
Well, because I think professional wrestling now, due to the format, is more disposable than it has been in the past. For example, as everyone remembers when Earthquake attacked Hulk Hogan on the Brother Love show, right? And they gave him a couple of Earthquake splashes. And
man, I was distraught when that happened.
I actually I cried. I cried. I sent my postcard to the Hulkster.
Did you really?
I got my friendship bracelet, my Hulk Hogan friendship bracelet.
I remember, they did like a video montage where at the end it was like really sad music, and it showed like Hulk Hogan's cross hanging in his locker with like his yellow Hulkamania shirt, and I was probably like 6 or 7 at the time, and man, I was just like so sad when that happened.
And I think
tell me they used a wind beneath your wings when they showed that.
No.
I think that was before that, but
here's the thing. There's a couple of reasons why that was impactful. Number one is our ages. So when you watch something at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's going to have impact. In addition to that, because of the format of their television, they reran that angle about 30 fucking times over the course of like 4 months. Mm-hmm. So it was on every episode of Superstars. It was on every episode of Challenge. They replayed it on prime time. And now that wrestling's so disposable, from week to week, things change and things just go into ether and kind of dissipate very quickly. Where back in the day, angles like Hogan and Andre, the initial angle was only 2 months long. That's it. It started in February. It went to WrestleMania that was in March, late March. And that was it. And now extended throughout the year, but they didn't fight each other all the time. But when as a kid watching that, it felt like it took 6 months. But it didn't. And I think it's due to the format of what modern wrestling is. And that's why I kind of have a hard time with it. When I go back and watch episodes of Superstars from 89, 90, 91, there's episodes where like nothing happens. It's just matches, a couple of promos hyping up the house shows, and that's it. And they might recap something. But there's legitimate episodes of Superstars where no angles take place. It just kind of just exists. You look at an episode of Raw, there's always an angle going on. There's always something happening on that show.
Well, most of the syndicated shows when we were kids, I bet 9 out of 10 of them nothing happened.
Yeah.
It was all squash matches.
They might have like a little something. Like they give you a little piece.
Yeah, or like you would have the flower shop with Roddy Piper busting it up with a bat, or or something like that. But it was mainly just squashes, and the only time they really did shows that had storyline meaning is when they did Saturday night's main events.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I remember trying to stay up for those when I was a kid, like
you're fighting off sleep.
Yeah, and then you wake up in the middle of Hercules Hernandez versus whoever, But
Billy Jack Haynes.
I think actually it was Billy Jack Haynes. Now that you said it, but yeah, I mean that was the way it was. They kind of built the shows, but the pay-per-views there was only at first one and then two and then three and then four, but it was the pay-per-views didn't seem like they were ever connected. Now we have like running throughout the whole year. You have the Royal Rumble, which connects to WrestleMania, and then WrestleMania usually is paid off at SummerSlam. They didn't do that back then. It was like, you had 3 months or 4 months of storylines, and then the pay-per-view came, and that was it, and they wiped the slate clean. Now it's like when they really say, like when Vince McMahon says the longest episodic, show, he's true, because it has been one long storyline literally for 30 years.
But the question remains, is like, we're now in June. What happened in January?
January, this Royal Rumble, right?
Okay, well, what happened?
I have no idea.
I don't remember.
Well, you weren't watching, Alex.
But the point is that due to the format, it all kind of
point.
It blends together. Tell me what happened in July of 2017.
Well,
I don't fucking
IWAR wise, I remember.
But if I say, "Hey, what happened February of '88?" I remember that. What happened? What happened? In 1990. I can sit here and rattle off all the angles in 1991.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way it was formatted and the way that they gave things time to breathe. Something happens, they recap the hell out of it. So you saw it on you saw it for 6 weeks over and over again. And then you get to your pay-per-view match, right? And it gave the opportunity for the viewer. You can miss 3 episodes of Superstars, and with 1 episode you catch right back up. Now it's kind of just it's shades of brown, because everything's kind of just mixed together and you kind of show them. And like, I have a hard time for these kids because I don't know if they have like the attachments or the memories of like, hey, when I was 6, all this cool shit happened, and now it's like I can't tell you what happened at all. I can barely tell you what happened last week.
Right.
So I don't like
I
modern
mean,
wrestling's hard to watch.
I mean, I've got like 20-year-old students, 21-year-old students who are like, I remember being a kid and watching John Cena.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? John Cena? That seems like that was 10 minutes ago to me.
Yeah.
And that's like, and then you tell them, I went to shows when I was a kid and saw Hulk Hogan wrestle, and they, they think you're Rip Van Winkle or something.
Yeah.
Time's a bitch, man.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is.
Oh, I can tell you that. That's for sure.
So I guess to follow up on that, Matt, what was your first wrestling show?
My very first wrestling show
went to live
was at the Peabody High high school gymnasium. The main event was Sergeant Slaughter versus the Masked Russian. U.S. Express was there, and it was not Barry Stevens or Barry Windham. It was like 2 other dudes. This is called the U.S. Express. One of the big stars of the show was Playboy Buddy Rose.
Okay.
And I remember because I was in the stands, and I was like in 8th grade or 7th grade, whatever, and I was screaming, "Pile driver! We want to see the pile driver!" And he pointed at our section, and we piled with the guy. So fun. The Dick Jackson dedicated DDT was that kind of thing. Like, we point to the crowd member, DDT them, and pin them. So that was kind of like my homage to Buddy Rose, because it was like so cool. And that was my first live event that I went to wrestling wise.
Fantastic. Aaron, what's yours?
I have this like weird vague memory of being like probably 3 or 4 and going with 2 of my uncles to a show either in Toronto or in Hamilton in Ontario, and just like walking through the venue and just big screens with, old school Macho Man from the 80s and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And like I was so little and I barely remember, but I remember being hyped up to go, my uncles being hyped up to take me, and I remember bits and pieces of the show, but I was just so young. But yeah, it's definitely there, and Yeah, I was pretty much a fan right from that moment onwards.
Yeah, man. Jeff, first show.
1982, Pittsburgh Civic Arena, the Igloo, and the main event was the Samoans, and I think Captain Lou Albano was their manager, but he tag teamed with them.
Of course.
Against, it was Bob Backlund, Ivan Putski, and who was Backlund's manager? Scotland or
Arnold Scotland.
Yeah, it was one of those like mixed weird matches. But I remember Jesse Ventura was on the card, Greg Valentine was on the card, Rick Martel and Tony Gurria were the tag team. Dominic DiNucci, who's from my hometown, he was there, and a bunch of jobber guys like Charlie Fulton, Johnny Rhodes.
So Bruno wasn't there. So was Bruno there or no?
Oh no, this was before Bruno. Like Bruno left, and then he came back for that weird like mid '80s run when his son came in.
Yeah.
David Sammartino, but this was like Bruno was like a commentator at this time.
Yeah.
This is when he was doing the Allentown and Hamburg shows with Vince McMahon.
Yeah, so they're trying to rip off Monday Night Football.
Yeah, the first show that I actually have like memories of like meeting wrestlers and everything wasn't until '85. And the main event was Hulk Hogan and Killer Khan in a steel cage match.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I remember we went to Howard Johnson's after the show. They had a restaurant, Howard Johnson's.
Oh yeah.
Hojo's.
And I remember Hulk Hogan walked in to the restaurant with Ken Patera. And it totally flipped me out. Like kayfabe died for me that night. Hogan sat down and was going to eat, and then he came out and he signed autographs and stuff. Ken Patera said to all of us kids, he said, "I'm going to go use the restroom and I'll be back." And he never came back. He like climbed out the window or something.
Ken Patera, noted piece of shit, by the way.
Yeah, he was. Hulk, but you know, I gotta admit, you know, like Hulk Hogan during like the Hulkamania era, I got a chance to meet him probably half a dozen times, and I can honestly say I don't ever remember one kid not getting a picture or an autograph. That dude stood there and did that for like 3 hours after wrestling.
He's one of those guys that he loves being a celebrity, and he will sit there and sign all fucking day, all day.
You know, I will also add that John Cena. I saw John Cena at the Pittsburgh airport at 6 a.m. after they had a Raw the night before. At 6 a.m., he had a bag of McDonald's breakfast food, and he sat down like in a gate area to sit and eat it.
Yeah.
And his family came along, and they had 4 boys, and all 4 of the boys went crazy and went over to him. 6 o'clock in the morning, John Cena was pulling the spinner belt out.
Yes.
In the middle of an airport and letting the kids take pictures with it and everything. That food got cold. He didn't even eat his food. Like 6 o'clock in the morning, he could have just said, "You know what? Nah, the hell with you." You know? So I always had kind of respect for John Cena because of that.
For sure. Ryan, first show.
It was either Lakeland, Florida, main event Dusty versus Flair.
Yes.
But my highlight was, so back then, like, they didn't have the railings, it was just the rope, especially for like NWA going down for the wrestlers going around the ring. Everybody came out of the locker room, and my little brother was like, the Midnight Express came out there, the tag team champions. He's like, I'm gonna touch the belts. You put your hands out, try to go. And they ran his ass over onto the ground. So that was memorable. Or we were in Texas when we were kids, and we saw Road Warriors versus Midnight Express scaffold match.
Whoa.
Wow.
Sick. That's awesome.
I think that was did they do like what was the summer thing they always did?
Great American Bash.
Yeah, but it was even though I thought it was always like just a pay-per-view at the time, it was like all summer long.
Yeah, it was that summer. It was.
And that might have been a Great American Bash we went to. Now that I think about it.
Sick. You gotta find a program for that, buddy. It's probably on eBay somewhere.
I think I gave all that also to my cousin. Might actually have it. Honestly,
Nice.
I have to get a hold of it. But that's scaffold. They don't do those anymore.
No, they should bring that back. Although probably Jeff Hardy would die, so that's probably why they don't do it. My first match was my first show was Nassau Coliseum, 87, right before WrestleMania 3. Main event: Hulk Hogan taking on Hercules Hernandez.
Oh wow!
Notable. This is one of the rare times that Hulk Hogan wore the blue knee pads. So he's all in the yellow, but he has blue knee pads on, and that stood out to me. I don't remember anything else that happened on that show though. I just remember.
I was gonna say it was notable because Hogan used a wrestling move. Like he tried something once and it just didn't go. It didn't work well. Like.
Yeah, he is that front face lock and that his Japanese move set that he uses. The best show I ever went to was at the Nassau Coliseum. Main event was Ric Flair taking on Randy Savage, and to this day, it's probably the greatest match I ever saw live. Savage gets the win via disqualification because Ric Flair hit Randy Savage in the head with brass knuckles and then hit it in his armpit and got the 1, 2, 3. And then when the referee raised his hand, the brass knuckles came out of his armpit and he got disqualified. That was the finish. That was dope. So, guys in the chat, what was some of your early memories or your first shows that you went to? I'm kind of curious now to see what shows, if anyone's still with us. I don't know that.
I will tell you my second live show was when WCW, for whatever reason, toured up here and came to Boston. And the main event was the Four Horsemen with Ivan Koloff. And it was Barry Windham, Lex Luger, Dusty, and Nikita. And that was a cage match. And I remember we ran up and got within 10 rows of the thing. But that was a fantastic show. Midnight Express versus Fantastics. Dr. Steve Williams was there. I think it was him versus Mike Rotunda.
Was that in the Garden?
Yeah. And we paid for upper deck seats, and we snuck down and got seats below, and no one even questioned us. And then we got even closer. So I have some good old actual photographs of it. For Raw in '87, Arturo Bo, my two dads chiming in. Raw in '97. Do you remember the main event? I always think about that, the show. Our main event for that was the Horseman match. I went to a WWF show, and one time it was Hogan versus Earthquake. No, I think it was Earthquake or Tugboat. One of the two.
He never fought Tugboat, so it had to be Earthquake.
Okay.
Tugboat was supposed to turn heel, and he was supposed to be Sheik Tugboat, but they gave that spot to Sergeant Slaughter instead. So your main event at WrestleMania 7 could have been Sheik Tugboat taking on Hulk Hogan, and that would have sold out the Coliseum, I think, because they teased it at the Rumble that year, but no one ever remembers that.
Yeah. A quick game note for the BRL. I put this in the BRL chat. If you were going to feud with Quick Kill Incorporated, which are Skullfire and Psycho Bolt, they have left the BRL. So just so you know, they're not going to be around. So, and that means that Darren, if you're still there, it'll mean the Von Schnapps versus the Carnival Profits with a shot at the Global Tag Champs on the line. No pressure. No pressure.
Breaking news.
Boo.
Yeah. Hashtag boo.
Schnapps.
You guys remember? So Saturday night's main events were always taped, and I believe that the Hulk Hogan, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff steel cage match, Saturday night's main event, was taped at Nassau. Wasn't it taped at the Nassau Coliseum? I thought it was.
What was that? I'm sorry.
The Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, Hulk Hogan steel cage match, the Saturday night's main event one. Wasn't that at the Nassau Coliseum?
I don't think so, no.
Well, anyway.
I think it was Richmond, Ohio?
Anyway.
A month before that was on TV. A month before that Saturday night's main event aired, we went to see another show at the Civic Arena, and that was the main event. And it was the same exact match.
No.
Exact finish with the both of them coming down at the same time and dropping down. Then they had to time it and figure out who hit the ground first. The same exact finish. What a month later, and again, kind of broke my heart. But by that point, I kind of had already gotten the rub, that it is what it is. But yeah, because I one thing I remember is that card that had that match on it in Pittsburgh. One of the matches was supposed to be Randy Savage defending the Intercontinental title against someone who didn't show up, and
Danny Davis.
I can't remember who it was. Someone who didn't show up, and the person they put in there as the baby face, the fill-in, was the Honky Tonk Man. It was the first time I ever saw the Honky Tonk Man. He came out, and he was the Honky Tonk Man, and he was a baby face, and they did a Dusty finish where he won the belt. He beat Savage, and then they took it off of him because Savage's foot or his arm or his foot or something was on the rope.
Nice.
And then Savage hit him from behind with an axe handle and threw him in the ring and hit the elbow for the win. But yeah, the Honky Tonk Man. That was the first time I ever saw him. He came in, and if I remember right, they didn't even call him the Honky Tonk Man. I think they introed him as Wayne Ferris.
Possible.
Yeah.
Here's a good question for the philosophical question. In that, while obviously technology and everything else coming along helped expand wrestling as a business, but should the bookers have been smarter about doing things like not booking the same exact finish all over the tour? I used to get a dirt sheet called Controlled Mayhem, and it was this guy Brett Bond. I wish I could find him again. I'd love to get those copies back. And it was about the Continental Wrestling area. It's like Wendell Cooley and all that.
Yes.
Right. And
I just picked up. By the way, I just picked up a bunch of Continental tapes. Well, not tapes, but videos.
Yeah, and it was that. I had a guy named. There was a Ring Around the Northwest. It was like the Pacific Northwest. I was a super wrestling geek between getting tapes and getting newsletters and just absorbing all these angles and the Nightmares. Ken Wayne and Dan Davis. They were like the Rock and Roll Express / Weirdo tag team, down there, and it was great. But I remember reading certain results. It'd be like the old finish of the bad guy swings at the good guy with the chair. Good guy ducks. The chair hits the top rope, and what happens next, Alex? You didn't hear me.
No, I did not.
I was saying the finish where the bad guy swings the steel chair.
Yeah.
At the good guy. The good guy ducks. The chair hits the top rope, and what happens next?
Guy gets hit in the face.
Right, comes back, and that I saw that. I read that finish in Continental, and then it happened on NWA, and then it happened on WWF, and it was like, this is it's just like, is it a simulation? What's going on? And I think sometimes that their failure to see ahead and go, oh, we're gonna have audiences picking up on the finishes, because the Dusty finish, I feel, as much as we joke about it, it really hurt the business.
I did.
As a long term thing. People were like, F this. Because, again, like you said, you had Honky Tonk Man with Babyface winning the belt. Then to have the whole, the only time I ever liked it was there was a Ric Flair match against Barry Windham. I think it was Barry Windham. And Windham power slammed him, pinned him, and Tommy Young was the referee. And I love Tommy Young as the referee. And he got up after the 3 count, looked at the rope, and saw Flair's foot in the rope, and he did this pained, oh shit, type expression. And then and everyone, because fans are exploding and everything else, and he goes to Barry and he's like, I'm sorry. And he explains to him, and you see Barry get pissed. But it was that was to me, not the whole thing was a second referee came down and said, oh no, his foot was on the rope. But I'll be sure to do that for the next pay-per-view write-up for the IWAR World Championship or something.
One of my favorite finishes is when I was a kid that just still, remember when WWF would do. We're going to take you a tape of what happened Wednesday in Austin, and they show you the title change like it didn't. Savage winning the title off of Tito Santana was one of my favorite.
Boston Garden.
Favorite finish I ever saw, and it's always stuck with me.
The roll of coin for an object, and he punched him in the face.
He had he was Tito was gonna bring him in from the outside with a suplex, and Savage had I think it was brass knuckles or something in his shorts.
It was a roll. It was a roll of quarters, and then the AWA did the same thing when Kurt Hennig. Wait, did Kurt Hennig lost the title or won the title? One or the other.
Won the title.
He won the title. Larry Zbyszko handed him the roll of coins.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why do I know that?
Because you came home from school every day and watched it on ESPN at 4 o'clock like I did.
Damn right you did. I watched that, and there was Global for a while in WCCW. I always thought WCCW had the really cool ba 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 boom ba dum ba.
No, yeah, it's you notice how modern wrestling fans all try I'm eating pizza.
Oh.
Subtitles.
So, when I was a kid, if it was wrestling, I watched it. Didn't matter if it was WWF, NWA, AWA, World Class, UWF, whatever was on, it was wrestling, I watched it.
Yeah.
So why do modern fans feel the need to only watch one promotion? Like, I only watch WWE, or I only watch AEW, or I only watch Impact. Like, it's the strangest thing to me. I don't understand it.
I don't get that whole tribalism. I don't care.
Everybody today needs to think that they're special. And how they feel special is they know about that band before you do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Or they know, they knew about AEW, or they watched New Japan when they were, 6 years old or whatever. And today, yeah, they could, but back in the day, we consumed wrestling a lot differently before the internet. Mm-hmm. I learned about everything else besides Crockett and the WWF were the only two shows that I got that I got in real time.
Yeah.
AWA was always, months behind. I didn't get World Class. I didn't get Georgia. I didn't get Florida or any of the other ones, or Continental or anything. I learned about those through the aftermaths.
Yeah.
That was the only – I used to race every month up to the mini mart to go buy them because that's how I learned about, I loved that. Remember the page that had all the rankings on it? And that's how I would always know. My friends at school would think I was Houdini because when someone debuted in the WWF, I'd already know who they were. I knew that Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard were coming, to the WWF before they did. Today, everyone knows everything because there is no surprises anymore. I didn't answer your original question. Your original question was, why does everyone need to latch on to one product? I don't know. I mean, I don't really care for WWE's product right now at any level, but I still watch it because it's wrestling.
Yeah,
I get that. I always feel like I watch, AEW. I'll check out WWE now and then. I like Roman Reigns. I enjoy his segments. I think they're well done. I also enjoy the fact he's come a long way, but most of the rest of the show is just so hard to watch. Presentation-wise, we talked about the cuts from the 80,000 cuts away to this. It's dude, come on. But it's also, I think, just the we get invested in a character. We get and I'm not talking injury fact. Injuries happen. That's going to happen. But when you're just going into a storyline, remember Otis a couple of years ago was real hot as a babyface, and then they're just nope, that's done. That's it. That's the payoff. There was the whole lead up to the Beauty and the Beast type thing, and then nope, that's over. So I don't care. Alex and I have done shows in the past about the internet wrestling community being full of idiots and shitheads who just think they know what they're talking about. And it's not so much that, it's more the toxicity of it. And I always think back to the idea when a book I wrote about wrestling way back when, the book opens up with a wrestler during a match. It's an ECW type environment, and a fan tries to get involved by throwing a chair into the action, and he hits one of the wrestlers in the head, and he gets bloodied up. And I've always felt that wrestling fans, while they're part of the action, there's a reason you light up the ring and not the audience. We're not fucking there to see you. We're there to see the wrestlers, And I feel some of the fans, like, Alex and I have talked about the guys he had to deal with in the audience. We've had guys in the audience behind me or, chanting and singing. Like, there's kids in the audience or they're trying to be funny, and it's like, you're not funny at all. I went to AEW in Boston a couple months ago, and there was a guy behind us screaming at Jade Cargill. And, like, it was like, okay, dude, when did you get divorced? What happened? Like, who hurt you? Because he was just screaming, and his kid was with him. And, I feel that the wrestling fans, like you said, like, they want to feel special. The band thing's a really good example. I remember Metallica when I was a kid. My cousins gave me, like, an Iron Maiden cassette and a Metallica cassette. It was Kill 'Em All. And I remember I was, like, in, like, 6th grade, I think, or 5th grade. Listen to it. But I remember, like, when Justice for All came out, my cousin was like, oh, they're selling out. Like, because he did a music video? Like, who cares? So he made money, great. I feel, writing-wise, if like, I've watched a little bit of MLW, I've watched a little TNA, ROH here and there. Now it's obviously not there, but, like, I will say the local sports channel in Boston runs ROH reruns. Okay. So we get that, like, and it's like, Silas Young. Like, hey, Silas Young's there. So it's kind of fun. But what I always think going back to the IWAR in the wrestling game is we're trying to present a fun place to play to kind of, like, I've always said, if you really want to have fun, try to picture your wrestler. If you were watching TV, would you watch them? Like, would you watch that promo? And I like last night, Jeff, I used your promo as an example in the BRL of, setting the tone, setting the stage, setting the stakes, and, again, like, developing the character. So other people read it and go, wow, that's really good. I want to write a killer promo. I wrote 2 promos already, and I always say, there's some people say they wait till the last minute to write their promos. I always say it's better to strike while the iron's hot. Like, right after the bulletin comes out, read them, get in there, get some notes together. I do a lot of that, write emails to myself and put notes, because I'll, throughout the course of the day I'm working or wherever, I have an idea and I reply again and again. So I have, like, all these little ideas for TT. I take them, drop them in, and go. And, getting back to one of the original questions about the first thing you remember about your league is, this is almost always, it's somebody's first cycle in NWL, every cycle. So we want to make sure we hit home runs every time, or at least give them a memorable thing to see, And I know the BRL is, like, kind of a monster because it's so big. We're trying to work out that while it's really big, we're trying to make it seem more compartmentalized and more, like, easy to digest. So we're working on it.
So the promo you're talking about, of course, was from not just Country Hammer Red Grady, but BRL League Champion Country Hammer Red Grady.
That's right.
He didn't know he was champion when he cut that promo, though. So I mean, we'll have to see what he comes up with next cycle.
That's right. That's right.
He already cut his promo for next cycle. It's already in the box.
No, that was impressive, and it is hard to win the BRL championship. It's a tough league. So, and in a cycle like this, where there were so many, I think I said last night that I had I think it was my second highest ever scores for, like, all my singles wrestlers was 495 average, and I had 0 titles from that crew. It happens, but finished 3rd in Johnny B Cup. Yay!
Yay!
All right, guys, I gotta get going.
All right, man.
I gotta call it tonight. I gotta work tomorrow.
All right, so
Alex, I'll expect my appearance check.
Everyone who's listening should use the Amazon link so we can pay Ryan.
Make sure you use the Amazon link to buy all your sexual wellness needs. Make sure you get your VPNs. In addition to that, make sure that you join and become a member of the iWarriors, which is the official name.
What happens if you do that, Alex?
You get a badge.
All right. And what kind of badge is it?
Revolution Extreme badge.
Like the one I just put in my there.
There it is.
Sweet.
There it is.
Hey, this was fun, guys. We should get together and just talk wrestling, more often.
I agree. I agree. So if
That
everyone
was fun.
likes this format, please let us know, and we'll continue to do these. So, so for Ryan, Patrick, for Aaron, for Jeff, for Matt, I'm Alex G. Have a good night.